When I was about 11 or 12 years old, I started to absolutely hate myself. And that came together with a lot of negative self-talk. And I mean really mean stuff. Not things like, oh, this was so bad, but really things like, you useless piece of shit, why can you not do anything right ever? And things like that. Maybe you are going through something like this right now. Maybe your negative self-talk is not as extreme as my self-talk was, but in any case, negative self-talk is always very disempowering and can really have a huge impact on your overall life. In the following interview, John Assaraf talks about negative self-talk, where it comes from and what you can do about it. And throughout this video, we'll obviously break down the interview and we'll go through a small process for yourself that is very similar to the processes that I give all of my clients that you can use to start letting go of your negative self-talk. So let's jump into the first clip.
We have about 6,200 thoughts a day, the average human. 80% of most people's thoughts are negative and 95% are repetitive negative thoughts.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And there's a part of our brain that's always looking to protect us with what could happen that would hurt us.
Yes, negative self-talk is very normal to some degree. It's a function of our brain to keep us safe and figure out all possibilities, no matter how unlikely they maybe are. Of course, we'll go more in depth, but maybe this can already give you some relief. Negative self-talk is very, very normal, and literally everyone else has it to some degree as well. But of course, there also can be deeper traumatic reasons for your negative self-talk to come up, just as it was for me. But let's listen to what John has to say and how it was for him.
And I just kept getting into more trouble and more trouble and more trouble. And as everybody can imagine, when you get into trouble, you end up in the principal's office or in the detention, hall after school. And guess who I met there?
Other people getting
All
in
the
trouble.
other kids were getting in trouble. And so then, I started to hang out with these kids after school. And we'd go into stores and we would steal, and we'd go into the shopping centers and steal. And that just snowballed, 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old. And then at 12 years old, I started to get into drugs. And I got into alcohol and drugs and breaking in entries and selling drugs and doing drugs and bringing drugs, from Florida to Montreal at 15, 16, 17. And my life was, at home, everything seemed okay. My parents were normal. My dad was a cab driver. My mother worked at a local department store. They really didn't know what I was doing because they worked a lot. Yeah. And so I got into an enormous amount of trouble. And I didn't know it then. I was a kid. I didn't realize what doing those things would actually do to my self-image of myself and my self-trust. And I was a messed up, kid when I was 16, 17, 18. And all of the self-worth that I was getting was from the street gang that I was in with 6 other guys, 7 including me. And so that was the beginning of my, my life, where I didn't think I was smart enough, good enough, worthy enough. And I did all these illegal things to feel some sense of, validation.
Yes, he got into a lot of trouble. And obviously this can really mess with your self-image and lead you down a very dark path. The story about how he changed that is very inspiring as well, but I'll leave the full interview in the description. For now, it's just important to understand that a negative environment fosters negative beliefs, just as John explains in this next clip.
And if we were raised in an environment that was negative, our parents, our teachers, our school, our brother, our sister, our friends, talking negative, what we read, we are all wired to avoid any pain or discomfort. And so we are looking all the time in our world for anything that could cause us pain or discomfort. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if it's real or imagined. Our brain makes a mental notation of that and locks it away in our memory bank for retrieval later on. So at any time that we want to try something new, I want to raise money, I want to, make more sales, I want to grow my company, I want to, whatever the case is. If there's any real or imagined danger or discomfort, automatic negative thoughts come up. You shouldn't do that because. You can't do that because. It's not possible because.
Of course your brain will bring up the belief that you are not good enough, not smart enough, or never will achieve anything if you grew up in a negative environment where all you ever saw was negativity. And all you ever heard were negative beliefs programmed into you. This just stays stuck in your subconscious for your entire life. Or maybe you were even punished as a small child when you achieved something or did something positive. From now on, achievement is connected with punishment subconsciously. And the more you stay in these thought patterns and beliefs, the more they get reinforced and the stronger they get. Because everything we think, do, or feel becomes habitual, just as John says here.
You know, if I say to everybody who's watching or listening right now, we're all creatures of, everybody who's been around says habit. Well, we have thought habits.
Sure.
We have emotional habits. We have behavioral habits, and we get habituated to the results we get. We repeat those patterns over and over and over again without thought.
So to make that clear, let's say that this is your brain. This is exactly how your brain looks like, basically a perfect image. Now, throughout your entire life, you have negative thought patterns that repeat and get stronger and stronger and stronger. And every time you think negative things, you talk badly to yourself, and all of this stuff, this just becomes stronger and stronger and stronger inside of you. It's basically like a street that gets extended, and then you have 2 lanes, 4 lanes, 8 lanes, and it just keeps growing the more you engage within it. And I see that with my clients as well, again and again. Whatever you continuously think, do, or feel habitually stuck within you. It's like you're repeating your life in circles that grow bigger and bigger, but it's always the same patterns. And this will keep going until you put in the necessary work to break these patterns. And especially negative self-talk in its reinforcing way can have a detrimental impact on your overall life or mental health and well-being. Just as John illustrates with this next example.
When I was sick, I was talking to myself, oh my God, I'm so sick. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I was the victim of the dis-ease.
Yep.
And as soon as I created a new image, a new story, new beliefs, new behaviors, all the symptoms went away.
Yeah.
So I started to really get fascinated with the power of self-talk.
Yes, as long as you tell yourself, I am so sick, your subconscious will believe you. The same goes for I am so worthless, I am so useless, I am such an idiot, I am so dumb, I am so unlovable, or whatever it may be for you. And a very, very important thing here are the I am statements, because these are statements of identity. When you identify with something, your subconscious will fight to keep it. So when you say, I am so dumb, your subconscious has accepted that as your identity. And your subconscious, again, will always try to keep your identity. I want you to start becoming very aware of when you use I am in your language or in your thoughts. And you can replace that, for example, with I feel. Let's go through a brief exercise here, very, very simple. Just repeat the following words after me. I am useless. And notice how that felt when you say it out loud. I am useless. And now repeat after me. I feel useless. Do you notice a difference? I feel useless. Or even better, I am not useless, I just feel useless right now. You notice how you take a step back, how you disidentify, and how it becomes way less of a deal? Let me give you a brief statement that you can use for basically everything, and write that down. I am not useless, I just feel useless right now, and I am working on changing that. And you can use that with worthless, stupid, or whatever negative things you say to yourself. Again, negative thoughts and emotions become a self-fulfilling prophecy, but you are not your thoughts or emotions. You just have them, just as John says here.
But let's say I have beliefs that are limiting me, otherwise known as limiting beliefs.
I'm not good enough.
I'm not good
don't
enough. I'm
have-
not skilled enough. I don't know how to do it. I'm too white, too black, too Asian, too Caucasian. I
Too
live
old,
here,
too
too
young.
young, too anything that's a limiting belief is an instruction to the brain, okay, of what to do,
Mhm.
right? Because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if I have a belief that's limiting me, it limits my behavior. But more importantly, beliefs are to the brain what um, um, uh, microscopes and telescopes are to seeing deeper into nature or out into the cosmos. It's a magnifier. So we will only see that which we believe.
Which is best
A
evident,
limitation.
like the 4-minute mile.
That's right. So the question is, if we only see what we believe, how can I teach my brain to believe something that I don't believe right now?
Mhm.
Well, how did you learn to believe what you believe right now? Oh, with parents, teachers, environment, brothers, sisters, books, television. Like, how did you learn? How did you develop this belief that age has anything to do with it, or color has anything to do with it, or environment has anything to do with it? Where did you get that? And then what would you need to believe in order for you to take action? So I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my emotions. I have thoughts. I have emotions. I can observe them, be aware of them, and I could be aware of what my friend Dr. Daniel Amen says. We all have automatic negative thoughts. We also have automatic negative emotions. And that's because they're triggered in our subconscious mind. Well, if I'm aware of an automatic negative thought or an automatic negative emotion, whose choice is it to accept it or to replace it?
Yours?
Mine.
Yes, it's your choice to accept or replace negative thoughts or emotions. You just have never trained to do so, and that's why you think that you are at the mercy of your thoughts and emotions, but you are not. And now we are getting into something very tangible that you can use from right this second to start changing your negative self-talk and rewriting your subconscious. First, let's listen to what John says about this, and then I'll give you the almost exact framework that I also give my clients to start changing your negative self-talk. So that's when you should pay attention and maybe take notes. It's not complicated, so don't worry. Well, now let's listen to John.
Most people have never practiced just being aware without judgment, blame, shame, guilt, or justification. Just observe a thought. If you have a negative thought and you feel what you're thinking and you think what you feel, you just keep recreating that pattern and you give it energy. And so why not just be aware? Oh, I just had a negative thought. Let it go. Oh, I just had another negative thought. Let it go. Let me replace it with a positive thought that's the polar opposite of that.
So, like, for an example for myself and the audience.
Yeah. So let's say, so we can go on negative thought like, I'm not smart enough to do this. Oh, wow. Do I want to entertain that or not? Or do I say, I'm more than smart enough to achieve the goal at hand? I could figure it out. I could Google it. I can chat GPT it. I can find out how to do this. You're not worthy enough. Oh, wow, that's interesting. I'm not worthy enough. I say, well, I'm more than worthy enough. I can counter it.
Just being aware without judgment is a great start. When it comes to rephrasing it with positive self-talk, when that works for you, that's great. Many people, or some people, feel resistance when they start to replace negative with positive thoughts, like they are fighting themselves. This is not what you want. So you need to figure out if that works for you or if it doesn't. Let's listen to one more thing that John says, and then let's look at the frameworks that you can follow.
If you're under stress, take 6, calm the circuits. If you have doubt, fear, anxiety, worry, even panic, I've taken people from level 10 panic to 3 or 4 in 60 seconds to 1 or 2 in 60 more seconds. Why? Because you can't be in a panicked state with the parasympathetic nervous system firing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
It's not physically possible.
It's not physically possible. So the first thing I need to know is to be aware of what's going on within me, in my mind, in my body, and then deliberately choose, the tool that I need in order to be more in control.
Take 6 means take 6 deep breaths. And it is also a very, very good habit that you should get into. So Let's now say your thoughts are going crazy. You are in one of the snowballing moments where you have a negative thought and then you say, oh, because of this I am a failure, and this thing in the past happened and was horrible, and this other thing happened as well, and this is bad, and this makes me worthless, and it just continues and goes on like that. This is now your framework. I'll go through it and then we talk about it a little bit more. So very first thing that you need to do is you need to become aware that this is going on. And often this is so automized, it is so habitual because it's so strong reinforced inside of you that it just plays. And you don't even realize that you negatively talk to yourself. So the very first step is you want to work on being aware of your thoughts in the moment when they happen. Then, when you are aware, oh, negative thoughts are going on, the next thing you want to do is you want to take this 6 deep, calm breaths. Just breathe in very slowly in through your nose and then slowly out through your mouth. So just like just take 6 of these breaths. Then, when you have done that, the next thing you want to do is you want to realize that you are not your thoughts. You just have them. And then just step out of your thoughts and observe them, right? You realize, hey, I am not these thoughts going on. I am me, I am myself. I can observe the thoughts. And this disconnects them, disconnects you from your thoughts. And then you just want to observe them. See where they are going, what they are doing without judgment, without talking to them, without arguing with them, without trying to pushing them away, just observing them and just letting them be. These are just thoughts. It's just a reinforced pattern. That's all it is. Just observe it. By fighting it, you give it more power because you make it more valid. You give it more validity. So just observe it and let it be. And then as the last step, you can start rephrasing your negative self-talk into something positive. If you notice that you start arguing with yourself, don't do that. We don't want argumentation with ourselves, but if you can easily rephrase that and that works for you, that's great. And for that you can use the statement that I gave you earlier. So for example, I just feel stupid, but I am working on changing that right now. Right? I am not stupid, I just feel stupid. Or any statement like that. Or you can rephrase that in any other way that works for you. So what happens and what we are doing is, first of all, if you just observe your negative self-talk without engaging in it, this here becomes weaker. It slowly becomes weaker over time. And when we implement more positive things, for example, at one point positive self-talk, or just also generally focus on positive things in our lives, we still want to be aware that negative is going on, but we want to focus on positive things. We start building a counter pattern. Because again, everything we do, think or feel becomes habitual. And that also goes for positive things. So we start building a counter pattern in our subconscious that we can also build up, and that becomes stronger and stronger, while simultaneously this here gets weaker and weaker. And this is where you want to be. Now, this obviously takes some time. If you have engaged for a negative self-talk for 20 years, 30 years, 60 years of your life, this is a very strong established pattern. So getting rid of that and establishing a positive pattern, counter pattern that is stronger than this one, takes a bit of time. Not necessarily another 20, 30 or 40 years, but again, a bit of time. Alright, going back to your framework, what you want to do is the following, because you don't want to do all of this at once. If you do all of this at once that I just gave you, it will be too much. So you want to split that in weeks, 1 step per week, and then you can add on top of each other. So what you want to do from now on is, for 1 week, you just want to work on being aware. Just work on being aware of your negative self-talk or how you talk to yourself in the moment. Nothing else. No deep breaths, no positive self-talk, not observing. The only thing you want to focus on, be aware. If the other things come natural, just by accident, that's fine. But the main thing that you want to work on for 1 entire week, be very aware of your thoughts in the moment. Then, for the next week, You still have the being aware part, this is week 2 now, and then for week 2 you also take the 6 deep breaths. This is what you do next. So you still work on being aware, and then for this next week you add the 6 deep breaths. Then for the third week you are now on being aware, on 6 deep breaths, and then for another week, for the third weeks, you work on then simply realizing that you are not your thoughts. This is something you maybe want to tell yourself in the moment. Hey, I am not my thoughts, I just have them. And then step out basically and observe them. And there you really want to work on just observing your thoughts. Don't fight them, don't push them away, just observe them. And then for the fourth week, for another week, you can start working on rephrasing your negative thoughts. Do that for an entire month and then come back to this video and let me know in the comments how that worked for you. Now, if you want to go much deeper into all of that, how the subconscious works, where trauma comes from, what you can do about that, how trauma causes negative self-talk, how all of that kind of works together, and how you can heal all of that, I have made a very deep dive video right over there. So if you take working on yourself serious, be sure to check it out.